detecting a massive object emerging from hyperspace.
So, Episode 8, The Last Jedi, has received a lot of criticism, and immediately after its release, a lot of people noted that the movie was too different. What with Episode 7 being criticized for being too similar to other movies, mainly Episode 4, a lot of people seem to criticize Episode 8 as being too different from other movies. And whether or not you agree with that, I'm going to refute that. You can take it as a criticism of the movie or as a defense of the movie. Regardless, I don't think that The Last Jedi is too different. In fact, I think it's more of the same. Now, before I start, I would like to mention I am going to be using a lot of legends. There are a few canon examples that I'll be using as rebuttals, but mainly all of my information is going to come from the expanded universe. I think that to look at the legends in the expanded universe is important when criticizing something that claims to be quote-unquote too different. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first point that I'd like to refute would be the Holdo maneuver. Many people look at it and they say that it's an incredibly illogical maneuver that should have been used throughout the rest of the saga were it a viable option. And many fans criticize the fact that this was never used in any other version of any Star Wars story ever told. However, on that point, they would happen to be wrong. Near the end of the Clone Wars, this exact same maneuver was actually used, though by accident and to much greater effect. At the Battle of Pamant, a Republic cruiser was damaged by torpedoes, accidentally initiated its hyperdrive, and rammed not a ship, but the planet itself. And the planet fractured all the way to its core, polluted the atmosphere, and killed every living inhabitant on the planet. Now, as you can clearly see, this is much greater than what goes on in The Last Jedi, with only a few cruisers being destroyed by Holdo's maneuver, whereas this, it quite literally destroys an entire planet. So Holdo's maneuver isn't creative or new, nor is it reckless or unheard of. In fact, it was an accident to use, but it was present in the Star Wars galaxy nonetheless. It's likely why people didn't do it, because it could cause such irreparable damages. Now, our second rebuttal comes from probably one of the weirdest visually scenes, at least, in The Last Jedi, and that was Leia flying through space. Now, it is hard to say that this scene doesn't look really weird. However, it's nothing we haven't seen in Star Wars before. In Star Wars Clone Wars from 2003, we can actually see Count Dooku using a more advanced form of this ability to actually fly down into an arena to meet face-to-face with Asajj Ventress. And Jedi possessing the ability to levitate while meditating has always been present in Star Wars. It's even shown in the end of The Last Jedi. Luke was levitating whenever he was force projecting, a point we'll get to later. So as you can see, Leia flying through space is neither illogical nor is it creative and new. It's just something that's been done. It's the first time we've seen it in a movie, no doubt, so for the typical fan, they might look at that and say, oh, well, this is actually kind of different. But in reality, this is all stuff we've seen before. Nothing here is new. Now, I'm going to combine the next two things on the list because they're pretty closely related. Not exactly, but I figure it'll just help with the listing process. The first one is the Force bond seen between Rey and Kylo Ren. Now, while this is a unique take on the Force bond, it's nothing we haven't ever seen before. We've actually seen this in the original trilogy. In episodes 5 and 6, we're actually able to see Vader communicate with Luke Skywalker across, from completely different ships. And we can even see Luke in episode 5 calling out to Leia, which is what, of course, causes him to be rescued. Now, of course, it's true they didn't actually see each other like they do in episode 8, but that's nothing more than a magnification of an already present power. So again, nothing new or generally really creative. It's a nice twist on it, I would say, but it's nothing that is so beyond the realm of believability. Now, the next quote-unquote new Force power that was introduced in The Last Jedi would be Force projection, which we see Luke using in the final act to distract Kylo Ren. And sorry to say, folks, we have in fact seen this before. In the regrettably now Legends novel Plagueis, we can actually see a session where Plagueis is training Sidious, and he actually uses this technique to trip him up. Now, Sidious lunges at Plagueis, and it's stated in the book that whenever his hand should reach Plagueis' neck, they simply go right through thin air. Sidious at this moment is confused and thinks one of two things. Either one, he moved faster than he could recognize, or two, Plagueis was never there to begin with. And Plagueis scolds him about trusting his eyesight, which confirms the latter, that Plagueis was never there to begin with. Now, of course, Plagueis didn't use the projection to project himself cross-galaxy, nor did he hold it for an extended amount of time, which explains why it caused him minimal strain compared to Luke, who died from the incident. However, it's still very clear that the power has existed throughout Star Wars. So again, force projection is neither creative nor is it illogical. It has always been around. Well, not always, I mean, since the publication of the book. But it exists nonetheless. Now, the next point involves Luke's character. I actually recently talked to one of my followers on Instagram, and they said that Luke's character was new because it featured a fallen Jedi. Now, I'm going to try and keep this brief because there are countless examples, both in movies, in canon, in legends, of Jedi who fell. And I actually originally had a super long list of every Jedi who ever fell out of grace, but I'm going to keep it simple to character traits that match Luke in The Last Jedi. So we have Eth Koth, shown in the Darth Vader comics. We have Kanan Jarrus, shown in the Star Wars Rebels TV show. We have Rom Koda, shown in the Force Unleashed series, and we have Jolee Bindo, shown in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, all of which were former Jedi who fell from grace, gave up on the Jedi Order as a whole, and left it all behind. Eth Koth completely abandons the way of the Jedi, takes up a wife, and has a family. And we have Jolee Bindo, a Jedi who saw the fight between the light and the dark, the Jedi and the Sith, as too polarizing, and there needn't be such fights, and he basically gave up on the Jedi and their collective mission as a whole. Both Kanan and Rom Koda actually go on to become drunks, and, get this, both their stories actually line up with Luke a lot. Think about it. A drunk old Jedi who's given up on the Jedi as a whole is approached by a young prodigy that eventually restores hope in the individual and gets them back into the fight. That is literally the story for Kanan Jarrus, Rom Koda, and Luke Skywalker. All of them. Now, the next one is probably the most infuriating to ever read or hear someone say, and that's that Kylo killing Snoke was new and creative, in that the Apprentice basically killed the Master. And I have so many examples for you guys. Darth Vader killed Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious killed Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis killed Darth Tenebrous. Darth Tenebrous killed his master, and his master, all the way back to the time of Darth Bane. Darth Malgus killed his master, and I feel kind of bad because I honestly can't remember his name right now, but you see it in one of those Old Republic trailers. Darth Malak tried to kill Darth Revan. Ventress tried to kill Dooku. Like, it is a constant thing in Star Wars to have the apprentice of the dark side big bad always try to kill the master. It's how they rise in power. It's how the Sith Order goes on. And granted, yes, Kylo Ren and Snoke aren't Sith, but I'm sure they follow the same rough code. So the fact that anyone actually thinks that this is something new, interesting, or creative, it's really not. Now, granted, it happening in the second movie was certainly unexpected, but an apprentice killing a master to gain power is something that's been in Star Wars a long time. It's nothing new. Guys, the most different and unique, too different, quote-unquote, thing that happened in this movie was them putting the snow, I know it was salt, but snow battle at the end of the movie versus the beginning of the movie. The Last Jedi is not different. It's not unique. It wasn't profound in how it subverted our expectations. It was just dumb. Now, if you like it, you like it, but don't go around saying that it was different and unique and the way it changed Star Wars was so incredible to you that you couldn't help but love it, because it didn't change Star Wars. There's nothing special or different in this movie. It's all just the same. But what do you guys think? Do you still think that The Last Jedi is quote-unquote too different? Comment below, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.